Mass deportation, guys. So obviously we do need something that can, stop the flow of illegal immigration to the country, and along with get the individuals that are in the country, obviously here for nefarious purposes. I think that's just the reality of the situation, and I do think that that's actually, in fact, the moderate position here. But either way, how would mass deportation actually affect our economy? I can only think of it like this: it depends on the actual industry, right? I mean, obviously, agriculture itself is going to be something that's going to be affected. Construction is also going to be affected in a pretty interesting way. With all the tariffs that are actually happening into Canada, lumber is going to go up. Construction costs are going to go up if you specifically hire like an all-American team of people to do your project. A couple of things are just going to go up. That's just the reality of the situation. Keep in mind, there are certain places that are going to take massive dips in taxes also because there are people no longer kind of, congregating in a specific area and paying into the tax system. Obviously, while they're not going to ever see any type of return from that. I think that's how it's going to affect the economy. Just, spitballing here, but I think that's just basically how that's going to go, guys. But this is a suggestion via Discord. Let's go and check it out. Let's see what this takes us, guys.
From day one, I will seal the border, stop the invasion, and we will begin the largest deportation operation in American history.
According to the latest estimates, approximately 11.7 million undocumented immigrants currently reside in the United States, which amounts to roughly 3.5% of the total US population. The United States has more international migrants than any other country in the world, surpassing the total of the next 4 countries combined. In recent years,
and what's crazy about that number here is that the world looks at us like we're absolute animals. Like, how dare you try to do anything to actually, protect the sovereignty of your nation? Right? No. Let us do that. You guys just remain open so we can take advantage of you financially.
In the world, surpassing the total of the next 4 countries combined. In recent years, the United States has not deported more than 500,000 immigrants under formal removal orders in a single fiscal year. If President Trump follows through on his promise, the country could see a deportation operation on an unprecedented scale.
Is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it. If you have rules, regulations, laws, they came in illegally.
Last time there was a lot of focus on building the wall. This time there's much more focus on the interior and much more rhetoric about the interior. So I think that they will feel the need to really show some results.
So how exactly will the mass deportation be carried out? And what impact will it have on the US economy?
All right, let's jump into it.
Many
Very well
experts
put together
warn that
here,
a
guys.
deportation of such scale could be devastating to the American economy.
Congressional Budget Office has estimated that the surge in illegal immigration over the last few years will increase gross domestic product by about $9 trillion cumulatively over the next decade, reduce the deficit by about $1 trillion. These are very significant, and it's only part of the illegal immigrant population that he's talking about rolling back or eliminating.
Unauthorized immigrants are key parts of the workforce, especially in agriculture, construction, manufacturing, and the service sector. So those areas of the economy would be hit particularly hard when there's few.
Like, is there a reason why she said unauthorized instead of illegal? I've always found that completely interesting, guys. I mean, are they legally here or are they not? I mean, let's not play word semantics here.
The sector. So those areas of the economy would be hit particularly hard when there's fewer workers to take the jobs in those sectors. But US-born people do not slot into those jobs that are left behind by unauthorized workers.
That's also very valid. There have been multiple studies of people trying to stop hiring people that are here in an illicit manner. Right? They tried. They tried to get Americans to come in and do these jobs. They tried to double the pay. Americans still didn't do it. So that is something that is a thing, guys. I mean, the things still need to get done. This is the moral conundrum here.
And And that's because the jobs are less desirable.
Immigrants are also consumers. So if you have a community where 10% of the people are unauthorized immigrants and suddenly those people are no longer there, buying all of the other goods and services, and that can hurt the whole economy of that community.
Research has also shown that 44,000 US-born workers could lose their job for every 500,000 immigrants removed from the labor force.
As an example, if there's a construction company and they rely on an immigrant workforce to do some of the hard labor, the roofing, the digging, the laying of bricks, but they also employ a lot of other workers as well who might be US born to do marketing, to be an accountant, to manage the workers, to manage relationships with clients. If that firm loses their immigrant workers who do the manual labor, they may also need to lay off their US born workers who perform a variety of other jobs because they can't sign contracts if they don't have the workers to do the work.
A sudden reduction in the labor force could also have an impact on prices.
There's a sense that new immigrants have placed a strain on the United States and really taken a lot of resources at the same time that Americans were struggling with the impacts of high inflation and rising prices.
But immigrants, especially unauthorized immigrants, are much more likely to work in the types of jobs that create the goods and services where we're seeing the prices go up. And so we can't say for sure what the effects will be, but based on what we know from past mass deportation efforts, it seems like, especially on these goods and services where unauthorized immigrants are super concentrated, like construction and agriculture, that the prices are likely going to go up.
Undocumented immigrants are also a substantial source of revenue for governments, paying $96.7 billion in federal, state, and local taxes in 2022.
And so if we were to...
What's interesting about this is that none of this ever changes, right? Like, we are fully, like, if you have been following this story for a really long time, like, you should pretty much understand what the benefits or the issues are, let's say. I am more of someone who's like, listen, bro, this is something that is not legal. It is against the law. If American citizens cannot get away with it, why are we creating a protected class of citizens or people, let's say, that are just completely taking advantage of these things? I do not think that that's an acceptable thing. Yeah, I understand. Are prices going to go up? Yes. Are there some small towns out there that are going to take massive hits in taxes because there's a whole lot of people that are going to be there, no longer going to be there, let's say, paying into the taxes? And again, we do know that they will never receive any actual return from the taxes that they're paying at the stores and the gas stations, et cetera, et cetera. I am fully aware of that. I've looked at it in my head, and I'm telling you right now, I'm not sure it changes anything here for me personally. Like, at all. I don't mind paying a little bit more if we can live in a lawful society.
Remove immigrants, this would have a negative effect on the federal government budget. And this is especially true for really important programs like Medicare and Social Security. Immigrants typically pay into those programs, but they're not eligible to receive benefits from those programs.
Okay.
And we know that those are programs that are having huge budget crises already. And
right, guys, most working people do not have any access to these programs anyway. I mean, I get it. You want me to care a whole lot about them, right? But I don't have no real actual benefit from either of the programs that I'm paying into.
We know that those are programs that are
Neither
having
will I need to
huge
when I get to
budget
the
crises
age where I can.
already. And we expect them to have even bigger crises in the future.
Okay.
Well, I would go back to what I think Tom Homan said and others, which is, what is the price of national security? How do you put a price on not having within your borders literally hundreds of thousands of people about whom you know nothing? Congress decides to let in another 5 million aliens for whatever reason and make them Americans in a different process. That's Congress's privilege and prerogative. But until they change the laws, we have to enforce the laws.
The net cost of illegal immigration for the United States was estimated at $150.7 billion at the...
Okay, so looking at this number here, it basically dictates that we're taking more of a hit. If the benefit to the country is $93 billion that we saw here earlier, but we're spending $150 billion, we're at a net negative, guys. So what are we doing here?
Start of 2023.
Entirely open borders and a welfare state absolutely does not compute. You're seeing this not just in the United States, you're seeing it in Great Britain, in Canada, in Germany, in France, in Italy, where the needs of this large population of recent arrivals are exceeding the capacity of the host country to sustain them.
However, some experts question how much undocumented immigrants can benefit from government welfare.
Unauthorized immigrants, unlike refugees or asylum seekers that actually do have at least some kind of legal status, are not eligible for most federal, state, and local programs.
Okay, so what you just said is interesting. When it comes to what we've experienced pretty much recently, a lot of these people here are under the guise of asylum. It's absolutely, in fact, asylum fraud. They do not qualify for it at all. And they are taking advantage of some of the cities like New York and Chicago, specifically with the funds given to help asylum seekers. There are 80 to 90% of individuals who have come into this country under the guise of asylum that do not belong, and they are, in fact, taking advantage. Like, you think that they don't know to tell their buddy that's crossing the border in like 3 days that, hey, listen, make sure you go to one of the sanctuary cities because they got you guys, right?
Programs. And so unauthorized immigrants are actually much less expensive if you're thinking just in terms of government spending.
I don't really like her, guys.
Major cities across the U.S. have seen immense spending in response to the sudden influx of migrants. New York City is projecting to spend $4.75 billion on asylum seekers in fiscal year 2020.
Yeah, they're all asylum seekers.
And Chicago has spent over $600 million on costs associated with new arrivals.
These are also asylum seekers.
People in Chicago and New York who have lived there for generations complaining to their local government that, look, what about us? You guys are spending billions of dollars on social services that we don't qualify for people who just arrived in the country last night.
And they've been paying into these forever. Like, Chicago is probably a really good example of this. The south side of Chicago is absolutely a slum, guys. It is a desert in many things. I mean, economic desert, food desert. Basically, where the only real grocery store is going to be a gas station type of thing or a convenience store. They have been saying for a really, really long time, while the government of Chicago has been saying that they cannot afford to rebuild and revitalize the community. They can't afford it. No. But for some reason, immediately when these faux asylum seekers came, now all of a sudden they can afford to dump billions and hundreds of millions of dollars onto people's heads that never paid into the tax code. I thought you guys were broke. What happened?
The exact logistics of Trump's operation remain unclear, but the incoming administration has emphasized that it would prioritize deporting individuals who pose a threat to the United States.
We're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it.
I would say that they are taking very seriously the idea of resuming law enforcement and trying to reestablish the rule of law.
I think most Americans would agree that if somebody's in the United States without authorization and they've murdered someone or committed some other terrible kind of crime, that they should be deported.
But some experts question the
Not
intent
all
behind
of them
these
do
claims.
that.
If you look at what they did last time, they rescinded the requirement to target criminals first that was in place under the Obama administration. So there's absolutely no basis for claiming they will go after criminals first.
President-elect Trump has also stated that he will declare a national emergency to carry out his plans. This grants the president over 130 special authorities, including the ability to redirect certain funds to initiatives that the president deems necessary. During his first term, Trump used a similar approach to allocate billions of dollars toward building the border wall, after Congress had originally rejected his request.
Main constraints on removals, in many cases, it does come down to funding and logistics and appropriation and priorities. And this time they have more allies in Congress who want to fund the operation.
It would cost the U.S. an estimated $88 billion annually to deport 1 million immigrants per year.
That's essentially 10 years of ICE's budget in 1 year. And it's going to be used in ways that are much more, whether I want to call it efficient, I don't know, but cost effective than what they're doing now.
A critical component of Trump's plan involves using military assets to aid the effort. The Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 has generally prevented presidents from deploying federal military personnel as a domestic police force.
Obviously.
During America's largest deportation operation in 1954. This law prevented President Eisenhower from using troops to return more than 1 million Mexican immigrants out of the country.
We have a tradition in the United States dating back a century and a half that the military is not used on U.S. soil to enforce civilian laws. And this would be a breach in that custom.
But there,
and I said this, I think, yesterday here, guys. I'm not a super fan of the military being used at all, not in this manner at least, unless it's just something, unless they're being used to like visually scare off the cartel specifically, right? But using them specifically on our soil, it's not going to set a really good precedent. But I'm sure there are some people, pretty much based off the comments of yesterday's video, that are completely fine for some reason with tanks running down our streets. It's weird, but if that's your thing, guys, I mean, that's an interesting take.
There are other ways that the military can assist without directly enforcing the law themselves.
Lesser involvement from the military wouldn't really be unprecedented, involving them as hosts for immigration detention centers, not really that unusual.
It's more likely that members of the military would do back-end operations, sort of freeing up ICE agents to do actual arrests and more direct processing of people.
Trump has also discussed invoking laws like the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to help out with the operation.
The Alien Enemies Act is an authority under which the President of the United States can order non-citizens who are from a country with which the United States is at war or being subject to an invasion. They can detain them, arrest them, and remove them from the United States.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, guys. That may not work politically, okay? Because just because you are from somewhere, right, does not mean by definition you are the bad guy. Let's say that right there, guys. We could think about the Japanese internment camps. I'm pretty sure that was also done underneath that act. And just think about how that looked optically. We ended up paying them reparations, guys. All right, just so you understand.
Strictly based on their nationality. Well, on its face, it seems pretty clearly to go beyond what the statute envisioned. Many courts are loath to intervene and take a stance on issues related to national security or war and peace.
Meanwhile, Tom Homan, who will be overseeing border control and immigration during Trump's second term, has indicated that the administration could rely on private contractors for tasks that do not require credentials. Companies like GEO Group and Core Civic, which have previously assisted ICE with migrant detention efforts, saw their stock values soar following Trump's election.
Given the existing resources towards immigration enforcement activity, there is no way to do a deportation effort on the scale that Trump has talked about. Any mass deportation effort of 1 million people or more would require huge resource investments, including contracting with private companies likely to build more detention centers. We're actually seeing that happen under President Biden right now. More detention centers are being built. So I would expect that to continue if there was some kind of mass deportation, increase.
Experts say that the great challenge to the deportation plan may lie in securing cooperation from the states.
The majority of deportations happen after somebody's picked up by local law enforcement, whether for a minor crime or a major crime. ICE finds out that that person's in custody. They request to the local law enforcement to hold that migrant for up to 48 hours. And then ICE comes and takes custody and starts people's processing for removal. For a variety of reasons, more jurisdictions have decided not to comply with these requests from ICE to hold people. These local policies seem to be one of the reasons why interior deportations dropped from the Obama administration to the Trump administration, even though the Trump administration last time also said that they wanted to really ramp up deportations and immigration enforcement.
If he knowingly harbors and conceals an illegal alien, I will prosecute him.
Tom Homan directed those powerful words at
start with all the governors.
Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson as the incoming border czar gets ready to conduct a mass deportation starting next month.
The federal government has competency for immigration matters, not the states, and they're challenging the federal government to do its job. What I would say to that is there's a lot of federal money flowing into these cities and states. supporting their police, their justice system, their education.
And I am definitely on the camp of saying that because there's so many federal dollars that are hitting a lot of these major cities, and a lot of these major cities are sanctuary cities, then these cities should no longer get any federal dollars.
System, their hospitals, and all kinds of other things that they expect the federal government to give them. I don't really see why the federal government, at least the White House, would support giving billions of dollars to cities and states that are ignoring their obligation to help the federal government.
Completely.
So we may end up with a situation where there's a financial crunch, which forces a rethink.
That's the only way.
The question of how to approach immigration in the U.S. is as complex as the issue is divisive.
I think that our current conversation has been really divisive and also very black and white. It's, for or against mass deportation. But I think that there's some nuance that could be found. We could both enforce our immigration laws more at the border, think about removing people who are a threat to our country, and think about offering some legal status to people who have been an important part of our workforce, of our communities, who have, U.S. born children. I think Americans would support that. I think that Congress is not ready to talk about it. Congress is struggling to pass legislation overall. It's really struggling to pass immigration legislation.
Like, bro, you broke into someone else's country and overstayed and you overstayed. You broke in and you stayed here for like, what, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And you never decided in your head that it was going to be a great idea to try to do something to work on your legal status. If you get caught, it's time for you to go. That's it, bro. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I hear it, but no. Absolutely not. Do not sit here and reward people for them committing illegal acts. You literally broke into someone's country. And I mean, we can't do that, guys.
And partisan politics get in the way, but I actually think there are solutions that Americans are pretty broadly in agreement with.
Okay. Well, that's it. All right, guys. A lot of what was said here, a lot of it makes sense. I like seeing that there are multiple different viewpoints on this topic, because of course it is. It's not as black and white as I think some of us may perceive it to be, right? But will the mass deportations affect us? Yeah, they will. And they've kind of started. Definitely not on anything large scale like I'm sure some people thought, right? But a couple thousand so far. I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. If it was 1 million, would it affect us? Definitely. It would, guys. That's just a reality of the situation, but we have to come to terms with the fact that either we're going to be a country of laws or a country that's completely skirts the laws, let's say. But anyway, you guys have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. The fact that you just made it to the end of the video says a whole lot, actually. We have a couple other channels. MrLboyd Music, MrLboyd Movie Reacts, along with MrLboyd Discusses, where I just generally speak about the things that specifically matter to me. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys later.